Will you get away from my children, you cursed child? Useless pauper. The woman's voice rang out across the village square as she grabbed her children and pulled them behind her. Imoh stood frozen, his hands still outstretched, reaching for the little wooden toy he had carved himself. He had only wanted to play. How many times must I tell you? The woman continued, her face twisted in disgust. Don't come near them. You will only bring them bad luck. Abi, do you want to infect them with your father's disgusting disease? Other villagers turned to look. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, but no one stood up for him. They never did. The leper's son, he shouldn't even be here. Those were the words that came out from the crowd. Imoh clenched his fist and turned away, walking past the familiar states of hatred and fear, and wondering if it would ever end. Imoh, the leper's son, had grown up like this, rejected, an outcast and unwanted. He was treated like this because his father suffered from a disease called leprosy, an ailment that no one had ever suffered from in the small community of Aba. So the villagers assumed it was a curse and neglected the leper and his family. Imoh, the leper's son, had beared the most grunt. As a child, he could make no friends, and even as he grew, it remained the same. Even in school, no one spoke to him. No one sat beside him. Teachers and students avoided him like a plague. They mocked him and called him the cursed boy. Even the school principal had no choice but to send him away. Imoh, the school can't keep you here anymore. Parents are complaining. Go home. We have no choice but to expel you. And just like that, his only chance at education was taken from him. No one cared, except for Ifure. Ifure was the principal's daughter, a kind and gentle soul. The day he was sent away, she found him sitting alone under the big mango tree behind the school. You shouldn't let them get to you, she said, placing a book beside him. Come, I'll teach you what I've learned today. And so every evening, she came to him, sharing her notes, teaching him things no one else would. It was their little secret. She became his only light in the darkness. Years passed, and Ifure blossomed into a beautiful young woman. By then, Imo's father had died, and the leprosy had finally killed him. But nothing changed. The village still treated him and his mother like they were diseases. But Ifure remained his hope. She encouraged him to study, to learn a skill, to one day leave the village and find a place where no one would judge him. And in his heart, he made a promise as he smiled to himself. He would marry her. One evening, he gathered all his courage. He had planned the perfect moment under the sunset, his heart pounding as he knelt before her. But Ifure's face fell. Oh, Imoh, she said softly, I care about you, but not like that. I only wanted to be your friend. His world shattered. He became so angry. You were just being kind. His voice was barely a whisper. I never meant to hurt you, she said, reaching for him, but he stepped back. You are just like them, he spat. You think I'm cursed too, don't you? Before she could answer, laughter rang out behind her. Cassandra, her best friend, who has been watching, smirked. I told you this would happen, she scoffed. What did you expect? You were too kind to a cursed papa. Now he thinks you belong to him. She laughed, and Ifure, ashamed, said nothing. Imoh turned away, and walking away, that night, under the pouring rain, he stood at his father's grave, his hands trembling with rage. This is your fault, he whispered. You left me with nothing but pain. His voice rose with the storm. This entire village will pay. They will mourn and cry, just like I have. They will feel 10 times the pain they gave me. The next morning, Imoh was up to something. At the village's only hospital, the mortuary attendant had just died. The job was open, but no one wanted it. Imoh took it. The nurses sneered. This boy already has no life, one whispered, and now he wants to care for the dead. How fitting, they laughed. Another continued. And to think he is handsome, no woman in this community would have wanted to be with him anyway. I guess he wants to make friends with the dead, they continued laughing. He heard them, he said nothing. A week later, that same nurse was found dead. Her body was brought to the mortuary that night. Imoh stood over her, a slow smile creeping onto his lips. "Hmm, this place suits you too," he murmured. "And now, you are mine. And so will all the beautiful young women in this community." He kept laughing. One by one, the young women of the village died mysteriously. Ifure's best friend, Cassandra, was next. She had been to the market earlier in the day, and Imoh watched her closely. The next morning, she was found dead. Then another and another, but the young women still kept dying. And then Ifure. Ifure had packed her bags to leave the village for the city, as she had always dreamed. The night before she wanted to leave the village forever, she was found dead at her doorstep. The entire village was thrown into mourning. The police were useless. The diviners saw nothing. The elders held countless meetings. Their deaths were questionable. But despite all of this, no answers came. Meanwhile, in the cold dim glow of the mortuary, Imoh laughed. He looked at Ifure's lifeless body and he laughed. "Oh, Ifure, the one I thought was my light. You rejected me too, just like this rotten community. But now you are all mine, just like the others." One fateful night, Imo's mother worried that her son barely came home, wrapped up some food, and walked through the lonely streets to the hospital. The old security guard at the entrance sighed. "Madam, your son barely leaves this place. He sleeps here most nights. Go and find him in the hospital." She walked down the dimly lit hallways. "Imoh, are you here? I brought you food." But no one answered. She pushed open the mortuary doors, and what she saw made her blood freeze. Her son, standing over lifeless young women, whispering to them, touching them, and doing what no living man should be doing with a dead woman. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. Her throat was dry, her breath shallow. This couldn't be real, she said to herself. Slowly, she turned around, not daring to make a sound. She walked home, step by step, her body trembling, her heart hammering in her chest. She never spoke of what she saw. She reached her bed, laid down, and never woke up again. Hmm. Imo's darkness had just begun. But what happens next? Will anyone ever uncover the truth? And what of the two strangers who will soon arrive? Hi besties, if you want to find out, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notification button. Part 2 is coming soon, don't miss it. Thank you for watching Lucy's African Tales. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Could a community maltreating and neglecting a child really lead him to do something so outrageous? Thank you. Bye.